Testing.
Mic check.
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, cool.
All right, so you want to just test the aux cord real quick?
Yeah, I'll just play something quick.
Tell me if that level's good.
A little staticky.
I like the ones who buy their own damn beers. If you want to toast to the life that you live, pour enough shots for the whole year. Jet black hair, baby, jet black hair, matte black.
Play it again.
The Rubicon Grill. Who has been a while, baby, don't go there. Who has been a while, baby, come here. Cheap black hair, baby, jet black hair. You bought the drinks and I paid no care. Hold a nigga down, don't go nowhere.
I'm stepping out for like 15, but I'll be back.
Great. Do you mind if I just double check that cable real quick?
Yeah. Sorry.
Alright, we'll plug it in one more time and then we should be good to go. Alright, let's give it one more go and then.
Who has been
Ooh, it's loud.
Yeah.
It's good.
That sounds better. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a lot better.
a while, baby, come
Yeah,
here.
that's
We
good.
peeking.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Alright, great. So I think you know the deal. We're gonna do 10 seconds of silence. I'm gonna get
Okay.
myself out and I'll just give you a thumbs up.
Okay.
Yep.
See what we sound like. I'm gonna let this rock for a little bit. Welcome back to episode 14 of the Danso Experience. Get your asses off your seat. We about to have some fun today. Weekend is here. Let's go.
Jesus, the notorious just. Please us with your lyrical thesis. We just chillin', milk 'em, top billin', silkin', pure linen, me and little seeds, Malibu sea breeze, dawn peas, palm trees, cats named Pablo and milked out Diablo. The williest, bitches be the silliest. The more I smoke, the smaller the silly gets. Room 112, where the players dwell, and stash more cash than Bert Fidel. Inhale, make you feel good like Tony. Pick up in your middle like Moni.
Welcome to episode 14 again of the Danso Experience. I am your host, Charles Danso. I want to first give a shout out to our Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners, as well as our YouTube viewership. Thank you for coming into this episode. What I kind of wanted to use this episode was to kind of bring in our Black History Month, our Black History education for you guys. I know this podcast is pretty much an educational podcast, so we want to do it from a consumer standpoint now, where we're also talking about to our Black audience. I know it's Black History. I know it's not subjected just to 1 month, but we're going to celebrate this podcast. We're going to enjoy it, so sit back, relax, take a listen. Start off, this episode is called The Value of the Black Dollar. A lot of times we've heard of the black dollar, and in terms of how we control the culture, how we control the narrative as African Americans or Africans in general. A lot of times you've heard the terminology secure the bag, which has become a popular phrase in our Black culture. But aside from just getting to the bag, do you know the true value of the dollars that we amass as a community? While it's no secret that African Americans are seemingly a minority in the total U.S. population, consumers of colors, that's us, spend approximately $1.2 trillion annually, on goods alone. You guys give me a second. I'm going to read through some facts. I'm going to speak to you guys. For those that's watching, for those that's listening, just bear with me. I'm going to read some facts for you guys, and we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have fun with this. We're going to have an educational podcast. I want you guys to leave this podcast once you're watching, once you're viewing, and understand what the value of consumer dollars as African Americans or Africans, for some of us, consume relative to the other minorities and or individuals in this country. I took some notes for you guys, and I want to kind of read through a few things and discuss with you guys. So if I do seem like I'm just reading through facts, that is on purpose. Again, I just want to read through a lot of the stuff that I want to discuss with you. I want to bring to your attention how individuals view us and how they kind of reuse our spending power alone. So again, I said African Americans in this country spend $1.2 trillion annually on goods alone. Based on the research, I think the statistical data, they said that our research shows that black consumer choices have a cool factor that has created a halo effect, influencing not just consumers of color, but the mainstream as well. That's Cheryl Grace. She's the Senior Vice President of U.S. Strategic Community Alliances and Consumer Engagement. Now, a lot of times, we know that as a culture, we are deemed cool. A lot of our fashion, a lot of our products that we use, a lot of our dance moves, a lot of just trends that we set, pretty much the whole world has pretty much emulated what we've done. Whether that be from white individuals, Asians, Indians, whatever the case is, we have set the trend. The beauty that we a lot of times don't really do is we still give a lot of our dollars. And again, I'm going back to the title of this episode, The Value of the Black Dollar. We give our dollars away freely. $1.2 trillion that we spend just alone to the Gucci's, to the Ferragamos, to the individuals of the world. Now, again, like I said, there's no issue in doing that. And I will never want to subject to say that you should spend your money here and there. But one thing that we should always be cognizant of as an individual is, again, as a black individual is, again, who are we giving our money to really? Another point that I want to emphasize is they state, to tap into the buying power of the black community, marketing campaigns across the board are implementing strategies to highlight diversity, race, and gender inclusivity. Now, what does that mean for the listeners? I'm going to read that again. To tap into the buying power of the black community. So they're trying to come into the black community. They have marketing campaigns across the board. That is what you see a lot of times on the commercials, what you see when you go into a lot of stores, implementing strategies to highlight diversity. Now, a lot of times, I'm going to give you an example what I mean by that. A lot of times, it wasn't a coincidence that Gucci and certain brands like that was doing certain controversial things where they ended up partnering as a result with a lot of individuals like the Dapper Dans and whoever the case is, other black celebs of the world and thus forth. It's not a secret that Beyonce gets an Adidas deal where she's able to basically design the type of things that she wants, and then she gets a full backing. It's not a coincidence that Fenty has LVMH, which is basically one of the largest conglomerate of basically product and fashion markets in the world. But what are those main entities controlled by? It's not by us. It's not by black individuals. LVMH is controlled by a French man. Gucci is owned by an Italian man. I could go down the line. A lot of the dollars that we're spending, yes, we may be buying Fenty products. I'm not saying me, but again, women and men, whatever the case is, are buying, example, Fenty products. But a lot of times, yes, Rihanna is making that, and it might be going to her, but she's not getting the lion's share. She's not getting that shares because she's still under the umbrella LVMH. LVMH is the controlling entities. That's what trades on the stock market for those that's listening. That's what's basically the owner. That's what makes him the third richest individual in the world. That's what makes him a centie trillionaire, as they say. because of the fact, I said trillionaire, billionaire, billionaire, compared to other individuals that, let's say an example, like someone like a Master P, who has been in this game for so long. But again, he doesn't get the notoriety as much. He gets the notoriety from the black people, yes, but as a consumer in total, in terms of not just black people, but people in general, it's not essentially focused as somebody that might be that might be an LVMH, and controls the entity of Sephora, and that controls the entity of, again, Fenty Beauty. That's just for the listeners. Again, we're having fun here, guys, so please take some notes. I want you guys to think about what I'm saying and what I'm trying to get you guys to kind of understand what I'm trying to articulate here. Another point, they say black consumers lead the spending charts in categories like ethnic hair and beauty aids, women fragrances, and non-essential luxury items. Now, I kind of hinted that when I said Fenty Beauty, but why do you think that a lot of individuals that do hair now, that sell hair, that have hair companies, that they are so successful in our community? We like to look good. We like to impress other individuals. We like to buy high-end things. We like to have the hair laid, whatever the case is, ladies, gentlemen. We groom ourselves a lot of times. That's why you see some celebrities coming out with clippers. Let's see, Nas had bevel. An example like that. I'm just naming celebrities because I'm going to also speak about how celebrity culture influences us as a black community as well. But for right now, what I'm saying to us is we basically focus on beauty products. It's not a secret when you go to ShopRite, when you go to Costco, when you go to Walmart, that you see a lot of the products now that they include shea butter, coconut oil, almond oil. These are all products that have been used for years, decades. But again, it's coming to the mainstream because we, again, are controlling $1.2 trillion annually. That's our spending power. Our spending power is reinvested into a lot of these companies that we shop from, these brands that we shop from. Example, Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble controls baby food products. They say that black consumers control the highest spending power when it comes to baby food. And I know people are going to probably see like I sound ignorant on this, but goddamn, black people, we have a lot of kids. That's not a secret. That's in Africa and America as well. We have a lot of children. So again, there's not a secret that we do spend so much more on baby products, this and that, because we have a lot of mouths to feed. And again, believe it or not, black people are not actually the highest individuals in terms of debt in this country as much as we spend. That's actually white folks, and you can look that up. But in terms of asset controlling, we are the least. We are the least in this country. White individuals control the most assets in this country. And yes, a lot of it can be through the Wall Street bankers of the world, this and that. But that's not what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the general public of asset control. And that means houses in terms of having your mortgages paid off, in terms of buying cars instead of renting cars, reinvesting into the stock market, etc. White people control that. But that's because, again, a lot of times when they're buying stuff, they don't buy above their means. If you think I'm lying, go the next time you in ShopRite or wherever you shop at, just look at look how the black people shop and look how a white person will shop. And that's not always going to be subjected to that in terms of my explanation, but what I mean by how they shop, what they think about. And that's not every white person because everybody has their own motive. Everybody spends the way they spend. That's something that the human mind basically controls. But my point is this. In terms of how we spend as a community, as a black community, we spend above our means. And that is why we have the $1.2 trillion annually in goods alone. But the goods, again, like I said, is not reinvested into our community. That goes out to the corporations, the Procter & Gambles of the world, the LVMHs, as I said, the Walmarts of the world. Why do you think a lot of Walmart is one of the highest e-commerce as well as Amazon? Because a lot of products that we buy now, even through online shopping, that's something that, again, we buy, but because of the fact we control that $1.2 trillion in spending, that's reinvested to those corporations. That's why Jeff Bezos is the richest individual in the world. Because of the fact, it's not just black people, of course, everybody shops on Amazon. But if you look at the statistics of Amazon from a minority standpoint, actually has black consumers the most, as opposed to whites and whoever else, Asians, whatever the case is. If you don't believe me, look that up. I'm not going to get into that data for you, but that's just something that you should take note of. My next point is they say African Americans are welcoming recipients of advertisement across our channels. However, while the trends of black buying power and over-indexing and spending continues to increase, companies' investments to advertise to them have decreased. The reason why companies, and I'm speaking to, again, the audience in general, the reason why companies, corporations don't advertise as heavily to just, black customers or African American customers, is because of the fact that they believe that what they've been doing for us for years, they can do for everybody else, but it don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Because again, a lot of the individuals culturally, even whatever the case is, in terms of our most famous celebrities, a lot of them are the Beyoncés of the world, are the Chris Browns of the world, are the Kanye Wests of the world, etc. Jay-Z's. I could go down the line. What I mean to say is advertising dollars, again, that works in the sense of what you can market to, but who are you marketing to? A lot of times, that's why you have that trash ass vino, excuse my language to say, that shit that makes your skin dry. I know for my black people that actually do use it, kudos to you. I can't use that shit because that shit make my skin dry as hell. That's why they add coconut oil in this now. They have shea butter in this. A lot of people don't know shea butter. I know the original shea butter because when I go to Ghana, my home country, my homeland, I see my cousin bring back a block of shea butter. Shea butter is originated from Africa. It comes from there. But again, a lot of products now include that because they're appealing to us, the black people, as they would say, the African Americans or Africans in general. Now, like I said, the next time you go to the store, just to go buy some lotion, you see it in the front. They purposely push it to the front because they know, again, these are advertising dollars that they say this is how they get us in terms of how they use their spending power, how they advertise to get our spending power, is because of the fact, again, they're pushing that narrative. They push that out there. Everything now you see has coconut oil, has shea butter included in your lotion, your products, has almond oil, whatever the case is. These are things that we've been using for years. We grew up on that. I grew up on that. Think about that. That's just something to take note of, again, as to how they're marketing. Yes, that data says that they don't market it maybe as heavily as before, but it's still there. It's still being articulated to the masses in terms of us as to how we're spending our dollars. African Americans outspend the total market on personal soap and bath needs by nearly 19%. No shit. That's because we take showers. I know that anybody that's listening is laughing right now, but that's a fact. Cleanliness is next to godliness, as they say. 19% in this country is about 573 million. That is what we control in terms of what we spend alone on just soap and bath needs. Why do you think Dove is so expensive now? Why do you think a lot of the products is natural, herbal, whatever thing? That's something that black folks have been doing for centuries. That's what we use. We use those herbs because, again, a lot of the soaps that a lot of the whites and different individuals of that sort use, it's not good for our skin. I know certain soaps that I use that it's not really good for my skin. It always messes me up. So again, black folks spending that much on soaps allows those entities, those corporations to cater to us more. Like I said, I'm not going to keep being in you guys' head, but what I'm saying to you is a lot of times our spending power controls the narrative as a society. I know us millennials, we'll say for the culture, but generally speaking, it's for the society. That's why soaps are so much more expensive now. That's why lotions are so much more expensive, because of the fact that we continue to buy, which we should naturally, because again, we're using that for ourselves, for our self-care, our health. For some individuals, they say that also black folks are now more health cognizant. That's why do you think a lot of things now are organic? That's what we're pushing to the masses because, again, we don't want all that artificial bullshit that they putting out nowadays. Everything we want organic because we say organic is more healthy. That's why you see a lot of places now, they're pushing more organical products. Excuse me, that's a word, organic products. Think about it, guys. They say blacks are 20% more likely. Blacks, look at it. Look how they term us. It sounds like Trump is fucking writing this shit. African Americans are 20% more likely than the total population to say they will pay extra for a product that is consistent with the image they want to convey. I said this early in the podcast for those that were listening. What I was saying to you guys again, and what I meant to say is basically what they just articulated. We will spend more to look better, to impress our friends, our family, our girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever, just our coworkers. We spend more because we want to look good. That's why do you think a lot of celebrities, you see athletes, entertainers, rappers, whatever the case is, they put on 6 chains. They got the Gucci jacket. They got the whatever the case is. Ladies, you guys got the LV bags, whatever the case is. A lot of times, and again, we spend over our limit a lot of times, but again, we're okay with that. But the question I want to ask for the audience is, yes, we can spend for those entities, for those corporations that society has put in our head, ingratiated in our head to say that this is what we should be spending on a lot of our dollars. But why can't we go to the local African-owned store that basically sell that same bag, can sell the chain at a reasonable cost as opposed to spending above our needs? We have to be more cognizant in that, because if we are controlling 1.2 trillion as they articulated, as I read to you guys earlier in the podcast, why can't we reinvest that 1.2 trillion into our own community? We started doing that early on. I know you guys have heard the term Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street was a lot of our own. This was started in Oklahoma. I believe in the 1930s, if I want to say. Black Wall Street was, again, our own churches, our own grocery stores, our own businesses, our banks, or everything was centralized control. This was in Oklahoma, where all blacks folks controlled these entities, these quote unquote corporations. Ultimately, they got bombed by racist white folks. But what I mean to say is, again, with that being said, we still had something that was reinvested into our community. Look at go look in the neighborhood. The neighborhood, when I say the neighborhood, is everything is being gentrified now. It's being controlled by folks that don't look like us, that don't, but they want to move like us. They want to learn what we do. That's why they're so enamored by our entertainers. They're so enamored by our style, our swagger, our way of communication, our lingo, as they would say. That's why they try to emulate it. And a lot of times they take what we're putting out to the world and they make it their own. It's not reinvested into us. That's why when you do hear people like I always like to go to the Master P's, the Jay Morrisons. There's so many others, so many talented women and as well as men that are of color that speak to this, to say that why aren't we reinvesting our dollars more so into our own community? And yes, it is becoming more prevalent now because of the fact that our generation, the millennial generation, is taking more a concerted effort, to basically reinvest our dollars by opening our own stuff that's black owned. But again, we're still not at the top, because yes, we can have the business, but again, we still are pulling to the larger corporations that are controlled by white men, by white women, whatever the case is, which there's no issue per se in doing so. But again, realizing that 1.2 trillion, that money is being reinvested into people that don't look like us, that don't control the narrative, that don't control the major corporations. We're just an umbrella underneath that. Because again, I think of it like it's like a record deal. Again, you're the rapper that's signed to the one guy that's signed to the major guy that's controlled by the white rich billionaire, which they're making the larger profit off of what we're basically reinvesting to as a black community, as individuals of color. That's why I'm speaking to you guys on this podcast to say that just be cognizant how you're spending. It's okay. And a lot of times people be like, oh, because, is the black dude, and like, oh, maybe this his way of doing business or her way of doing business isn't necessarily right, so I ain't fucking with her. But you can fuck with Gucci. But you can buy the Hermes belt. You can do that. That's not people called that's called like us, that look like us. And nobody, and I'm not here to preach and say don't go buy that, because at the end of the day, that's your money. That's your money. That's your hustle that you getting. You making your paper. So I will never say to the next man or woman that this is how you spend your dollars, but just be cognizant. Because a lot of times we don't realize that as individuals, that what we're spending so much, we're literally putting our last dollars, our last paycheck to. It's not individuals that are gonna come back and reinvest that into the community. That's where we have to be more so focused on. And I wanted to use this episode to articulate that to you guys, because I believe in doing so, it allows us to be more socially aware as to how we're spending, how we're reinvesting our dollars into the world, into the market. And you know, I just for me, it's like, it's frustrating in the sense of, you know, just trying to get that out there. Because I'm not the only one obviously saying it. Obviously, other people have said it. But again, guys, just be more cognizant. But I continue, like I said. And this is something that I actually took a note on. This is what, I believe she's a white woman that basically wrote this about us. She says blacks, and this is the word she literally used, blacks are 20% more likely than the total population to say that they will pay extra for a product that is consistent with the image I want to convey. Guys, pardon me, excuse me. I just literally said that. And just literally about 10 minutes ago. And what I just said to you guys was, we are willing to spend more money just so we can look better, just so we can impress the individuals that basically don't even give a fuck about us really. They just, and that's just the mindset that we've ingratiated in our heads. Because again, we basically tie to look expensive, to look rich, so to speak. It's a sense of status quo. It makes us feel more of what than what we may think of ourselves realistically. And what I mean to say is, again, if I'm gonna buy the Hermes belt and I'm gonna go to class, I'm using myself. I'm a 16, 17-year-old individual, and I'm going to class. I'm going to go impress my friends. I want to go show them, oh, this is the belt, this is the thing that I'm rocking. But a lot of times, what you're spending on, you can use that for so many different things, so many different avenues. Guys, there's so many ways to get to the bag, as they said originally, without having to basically blow the money that you're spending on something that's just it's just for today. You have real estate, you have stock markets, you have mutual funds, you have 401ks at your job. Instead of using more into that paycheck just to go spending on whatever sneakers, whatever the case is, use the 15% of basically the matching power, the 5%, whatever the case, increase that to 10, 15%, because you investing into that takes care of your kids. When you come to retirement, you don't, and there's kids, example, or you just want to relax. Let's say you want to retire, as opposed to you having 30,000 saved, you have about 60,000, 70,000 in retirement. Understand what a 401k and a Roth IRA is, as opposed to just understanding which belt, what color Ferragamo belt I'm going to get today. And you guys may say like, oh, he's just saying this and that, whatever the case is. But I want you guys to take note of what I'm basically preaching to you guys, or speaking to you guys, because I'm talking to you guys out there, people that look like me, people that may dress like me, even fair. We'll say that. And again, there's nobody saying you shouldn't look good, because damn, I love looking good, and I'll tell you that right now. I love dressing up, but a lot of times I'm okay with just spending $10 for a sweater and putting that together, because and putting $100 towards whatever my stock that I'm investing at the time being. Guys, when I first started, I spent so much money and put myself in debt early on in my early 20s when I first got into Wall Street and I started making a little bit of money. And I went 150 points shot to my credit score. I couldn't do anything. And I was literally borrowing money, asking for money, continuously asking people for money. I was even embarrassed. There's times that even I didn't have nothing to my name. I literally had $0, but I had a nice coat, a nice whatever the case is. It took having the right individuals around me and being more cognizant of my spending and literally having the discipline. And it took literally a year and a half for me to get out of that. I boosted my credit score 200 points. I don't really care for that for the flashy shit as much anymore, because end of the day, like I said, I'm thinking of things so much ahead of me, 10, 15 years down the line. I'm thinking of my business. I'm thinking of my family, the future family I plan to have. That's where I want us as a community, and I want you guys to take what I'm saying in today's episode away, is the value of the black dollar, the spending power that we have. It's not just on clothing. It's not just on goods in terms of soaps, whatever the case is. This value of the dollar can also be controlling a share of a company. That's through the stock market. Insurance, that is through 401k, Roth IRAs. Understand these terms I'm saying. If you don't know what they are, look it up. Come to me or whoever the case you may be, that you know that they can understand and break that down better for you. Mutual funds, understand that. Real estate, you don't have to be a licensee to invest into a little bit of properties. You just have to know how to connect with the right individuals that can show you how it's done. And you don't go to any Joe Small on the block. You don't talk to one of these idiots that go in the shade room and post and spend $2,000 just to get an ad up. They don't know what the fuck they talking about. That shit is fucking stupid to me, and it makes no goddamn sense. Guys, go to real estate individuals. There's the Jay Morrison. He's a real estate guy. I don't need to see his Instagram to know that dude knows what the fuck he's talking about. That's just common sense of how he's breaking shit down. He has tutorials. I've taken classes. My girl has put me on to take certain classes that allows me to understand how to invest in the real estate market. And that's something that I want everybody to be cognizant of. Let me break down Madam CJ Walker. She's a pioneer that I want to highlight for an individual that we still use her products to this day. Madam CJ Walker, one of the first millionaire, black woman, my queen, millionaire in this country. She was born in 1867 and died in 1919. Madam CJ Walker, let me just read this for you guys. Be patient with me. Black hair care is a multi-billion-dollar industry in this country right now in 2020. Again, black hair care is a multi-billion-dollar industry in this country right now in 2020. If you're selling hair, if you're doing people's hair, you should be killing it right now, because right now you're in a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I promise you, if you think white people not going to get on that, they already have. So my black people, get to that bag, and as they say, as I've articulated, because if you know you can do well in that industry, get to it sooner than later. Trust me. But again, back to Madam CJ Walker. More than 100 years ago, this is the person that she emulated her business from. Her name was Annie Turnbull Malone. And Madam CJ Walker helped launch a profitable the multi-billion-dollar hair care business that you have today is because of these two women, black women. Malone, again, was born in Southern Illinois to formerly enslaved parents. She started making hair care products out of necessity. In the post-Civil War era, the chemicals in these products could be very harsh on black women's scalps, causing many to lose their hair. So Malone, known for being skilled at chemistry, this is a black woman that took chemistry classes back during the Civil War, developed a preparation that straightened hair without damaging it. She expanded her line, including her wonderful hair grower, and moved to St. Louis, where she capitalized on this activity around the 1904 World's Fair. Alternatively, Madam C.J. Walker took this idea that she learned from this woman and basically created a $1 billion industry, and now has $1 million industry that now has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you have to think, Madam C.J. Walker being a millionaire at the time is equivalent to basically being a billionaire in this generation with inflation and everything like that. So basically, Madam C.J. Walker basically would have been on Oprah status in terms of the money that she would have generated should she have been born in this era. But to continue, Madam C.J. Walker, born Sarah Breedlove, was born in a plantation in Delta, Louisiana. Mrs. Walker, or Miss Walker, excuse me, struggled with hair loss. So what she did was she said, fuck it, man, I keep losing my hair. These fucking white folks got me stressed out. So I'm going to use Malone's strategy and return her hair to health. That's what Madam C.J. Walker had did. Walker later moved to the West and went to sell hair products similar to what Malone did previously, as I explained to you guys, including her own wonderful hair grower. Both women became millionaires before their passing. Now, you have to think, this is between, let's see, the late 1800s into the early 1900s, both of these women. C.J. Walker passed in 1919, and I believe Malone was a decade before her that passed. So you really have to think, the late 1800s to early 1900s, this is when slavery was still prominent, but these entrepreneurs, these women of color, were able to use their intellect, their brains, to build what is now today considered a multi-billion-dollar industry. So for those that's listening, the $1.2 trillion that we're spending, entrepreneurs, I want you guys to continue to build. If you own, not just a hair care, if you own any type of entity, reinvest into your business, keep pushing. That's the value of the black dollar as well from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I just spoke to two ladies that basically were dealing with a lot more bullshit than we're dealing with right now. We'll be able to become millionaires. I'm not saying everybody's going to be a millionaire. I understand that. But let's reinvest our dollars into something more prominent as opposed to just simple stuff that we're using to impress people that don't care about us and don't even could give two shits about us. We've been ingratiated in a culture where we follow celebrity culture. It's not a secret that we spend $300, $400, $500 on Yeezys. It's not a secret that we buy Jordans every single time. That's great that we are investing into black people, black men, black women even, again, because we buy certain products from, like I said, Rihanna, Beyonce. But let's also be cognizant of when we're going to Saks Fifth Ave, when we're also going to Nordstrom. These are great stores. And I wouldn't say don't shop there ever. But I've known people that literally have had $200 to their name and went to got a jacket at Nordstrom's for $150. You did not gain anything from doing that. You basically owe the $150 back to yourself because you literally have $50 to your name. And these are people that I've known. I'm not gonna name them, but these are people that I've known. I've done shit like this in my early 20s when I literally had $300 to my name, and I went to get a pea coat at Banana Republic for $200, and I literally was struggling with $100. Couldn't even get lunch, but I was that brown jacket looked great in the wintertime. Who the fuck was I flexing to? Everybody just said that shit was nice as they was eating lunch, and my ass was struggling to get food. I laugh at it now because it was just the ignorance that we have as a culture. Sometimes we have to be so cognizant of. We have to pay attention to, guys. Again, we control $1.2 trillion annually in 2020 or 2019, excuse me. I'm sure the number will increase as we enter 2020. What we spent to date to 2019, African Americans, people of color Africans, spend $1.2 trillion annually. I just think that's insane to me because, again, we have that control and power, but why are we in debt? Why, as black folks, are we struggling? If we have that money, if we can spend that money on clothing, why can't we invest that into ourselves, into our kids' future, into our kids' future? White folks do it. You guys clown your professor or the guy that's rocking the New Balance sneakers, but he's going to a $500 mortgage paid home. Or $500,000 mortgage paid home, a big ass house, big crib. I prefer that crib. Do you? Just something to think about, guys. But again, like I said, let's control the culture. Let's not just I'm just not using this just for the February, just for Black History. I wanted everybody to basically get an understanding of, in terms of how we're spending our dollars, the type of money that we're generating into this country, into this world. But that money is not going back to us more as heavily as it should. But because of the fact of you have the people that's controlling the larger corporations, the entities that we're spending our money into, they get that money back. Dapper Dan had to struggle, and I'm using people's names to give you an example. Dapper Dan was banned by the same people that now have him coming to these fashion events, wanting them to design clothing for these celebrities under that umbrella of Gucci. Yes, Gucci, I'm speaking to you and other entities similar to a situation like Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan had a creative mindset. That never went away. He was designing for your famous celebrities, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane, Mike Tyson, MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, etc., etc., etc. But you guys shut him down because he had the creative thinking, the creative process to basically venture out onto his own, create something that basically he was speaking to the culture, controlling the dollars that you guys wanted a piece of. And now look, it took basically people going and saying, where Dapper Dan and why Dapper Dan not getting this idea? Gucci, you guys ended up stealing the ideas of what Dapper Dan created for those Gucci jackets, his own spin on those jackets he created. That was his ideas. And that's a lot of times what we miss as a culture. We miss the fact that we have creative thinking. We're creators. A lot of things that's being used now was created by black folks. This is our decades ago, centuries ago, excuse me. Were created by black folks. We have the creative thinking. We have to think more on an executive level. It's not just us starting a business. It's not just us spending the money just to spend the money. We have to be cognizant who we're spending to. We have to, if you have the idea to build your own business, to build your own product, do it. Don't hesitate. Don't feel like you have to go just to the white guy that has the money, this and that. That's fine. If you're going to do that, then leverage it to yourself where you have the money coming back to you. It's not just you getting the money, but you getting the ownership. Ownership is key in anything that you do. So guys, when the next time you're going to go spend, the next time that you're wanting to basically spend the money that you may not have, or you think that, yes, I'll get in the next paycheck. And let me say something to that as well. Not all jobs are secure. No job is secure, excuse me. So just think about that. Save your money, guys. Invest into black folks. I want you guys to invest into people that look like us. And you don't have to invest into the person just because he's black or she's black. Of course not. Or African or African-American. You always want to invest in a business that's good. But if the business is good, just don't shut it down just because it's a smaller business. Because I think a lot of those times we are enamored by brands that we sometimes forget that those brands take a lot of the creative ideas that us as black folks have. Like I said, with Gucci and Dapper Dan, go look at the Gucci products now. Look at the products, the clothing that they sold. Dapper Dan was doing that in the 80s and early 90s. Just something to think about, guys. Again, like I said, I want to thank you guys for rocking with us here at the Danso Experience. Again, this is the Danso Experience. And I want you guys to basically take time, watch this podcast, listen to this podcast again, and just take time to basically take a leap of faith. If you have a business, if you know your friend is doing hair, is selling clothing, has a service, is designing websites, building a business, whatever the case that person is doing, building apps, has a tax service, has real estate, go to that person. Just give that person a shot. Because if we're giving $1.2 trillion to the United States of America, we're not really getting much of a cut of it. And if you think that Jordan and them are getting the major percentages of that, why isn't Jordan one of the richest individuals in the world right now? Why isn't he up there with Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and those sorts? Think about that, because he still has to pay out a guy end of the day. Just something to think about, guys. Let's control the narrative. 2020, let's get it. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Again, like I said, give us a listen on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. This is the Danso Experience. Also, follow us at Danso Financial Group on YouTube as well as our Instagram for more details. Link will be in bio. I'm about to take y'all out. You guys have a great weekend, and please tune in. This is Tinashe Donna featuring Diamond Platinums. I'm taking you guys to East Africa. It's called Jerry.
Platinums.
Again, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just let it vibe. I don't understand it either, but just let it vibe.
Ooh, you my sweet chocolate monster. Sorry, I contemplate on that. And baby, better write for me and show me that you're mine. Oh, boy. I'ma go down.